I am here with Jason Brown of the Brown Report. Jason is an expert stock and options trading coach, and I hope our viewers are just as thrilled to have him here as I am. This guy knows his stuff. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today.
Lacey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So today we're going to talk about the AI industry and where it's going in 2024. Of course, we're going to be looking at a few big players in this game. Jason, kind of to start here. So about 6 months ago, you had posted a video, best AI stocks to buy in 2023. We're just rolling into 2024 here. 6 months is a long time, especially a long time when you consider how fast technology is really moving these days. So kind of talk to us about with the increased consumer adoption of AI powered products and services here that happened in 2023. Tell us, how has this affected the market sentiment towards AI stocks, and maybe what indicators suggest sustained consumer interest in AI related companies for 2024? I mean, we know that AI is here to stay. As you mentioned in your video, it's in everything we use. So ChatGPT, of course, that's the big one. Zoom meeting assistant, customer service, Amazon, the list keeps growing. It's huge. So yeah, talk to that to us if you would. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so I like to take a technical approach to the market and a fundamental approach. And when you take a look at the fundamental approach and you look at it from a top-down perspective, a couple questions you have to ask yourself, or at least that I ask myself, is like, is AI at the pinnacle? Meaning like everything that's gonna have AI, is it already introduced and
Mhm.
executed on, or is it at the beginning? And I would argue that everything is at the beginning stages of AI, which lets us know that there's more to go from a growth standpoint. And more specifically, for example, we haven't really seen how Apple's going to use AI. Now, they
Mhm.
have used it to some extent when you think about what they do with Siri and what they do with, GPS and mapping routes. That's all AI that we don't really give as much credit to. We just like, oh, the GPS knows that
Mhm.
to take me a different route because of traffic. It's like, well, that's kind of AI powered, but we haven't really seen what they're going to do from a standpoint of maybe you can pull out your iPhone and it can listen while you're in a different country and translate back and forth
Mhm.
without you downloading another third party app. There's different things like that. And so as AI continues to grow, you have to ask yourself, what do we need for AI to grow? Number one, we need computers, we need computer chips, we also need server space. And so when you look at those three different sectors, you really start to say, have we bought all the computers we're going to buy? Have we bought all the server chips we're going to buy? Have we bought all the, what do they call it, like cloud space that we're going to
Mhm.
need to house all the answers, all the responses to all the AI things that we want to ask it and get an immediate response back? And the answer is no. And so because we haven't hit massive, as far as massive like exposure to it in every category of our life, that lets me know that there's more computers, more chips, more server space to buy, which means I think AI continues to rise for a long time to come. And so that's kind of how I look at it from a fundamental standpoint. From a technical standpoint, when I look at the stocks, some of it has already, stock market is forward thinking. So a lot of it is already baked in. And so I'm now looking for more of a pullback in some of those stocks
Mhm.
before the next level of AI resets. Like all the hype has already been baked into it, like NVIDIA's chip, AMD's
Mhm.
chip, and everyone's doing AI. But now that the hype is kind of getting sucked out, I think now the practical application of seeing it in your everyday life, like I'm in email now, and it's like, hey, do you want to rewrite this email now? AI is kind of being found in there. So you're starting to see like companies embedded into everything. And so now it's
Mhm.
less hypey and more realistic how you're going to use it. And then we're going to see, I think, the next resurgence in those stocks.
Yeah. So one of the big questions with all of this, and you kind of touched on it, whether or not we're at the pinnacle, you say that we're not, of course. So we know people are jumping into the market at different times. Everyone has their own path. So those who are just now considering to invest in AI, yes, AI is here to stay, as we mentioned. And yes, there's more to come, but are these people still late to the party? Did they miss out? Can they still find opportunities? Yes, there's opportunities. But with all the rapid evolution, like, are they good opportunities still, or is it just kind of, are they late to the game?
So people aren't late to the game, but I think it's important to distinguish AI is not a business, like it is a technology. And
Yeah.
so when you start to say, I'm buying Nvidia because of AI. Like AI is a section of their technology that are using to drive business to sell actual chips. They
Hmm.
also still sell gaming chips, computer chips, servers, like they make chips for cars. And so like we can't look at like, am I late investing in AI? We have to look at it as what companies also layer in AI and do it the best that have the potential to take their revenue from where it's at to even further because of this new explosive technology. And so I
Hmm.
think we have to make that distinction. So from a, because to me, saying am I late, it's like saying, am I late buying Amazon? It's like,
Yeah.
well, if you think that this is all they're going to do with AI, then yes, but that would be silly if you think they're done innovating. AI is just one piece of it. So I
Hmm.
don't think we're done buying Nvidia, AMD, Intel, Amazon, the Microsofts of the world.
Hmm.
I think we have to make that distinction versus am I late investing in AI, because AI is going to be ongoing and evolving. And AI itself is not a business. It's something that they can sell or layer on top of their existing business to be more efficient. Maybe they don't need as many employees. Maybe it
Hmm.
can make their robots more smarter with delivery routes and warehousing and how much inventory they have to keep on staff. And so it's more about what companies can AI make better by reducing costs or increasing revenue versus you're investing specifically in AI. So no, people aren't
Hmm.
late, but they need to make sure they're investing in the right companies
Hmm.
and not jumping on the hype train of just they got something that's AI, because I think
Yeah.
that's what you see when these stocks spike up and then they crash and they become meme stocks or Reddit
Hmm.
stocks. It's just people are just jumping on the bandwagon of anything that says AI, and they're not actually investing in companies with real businesses.
Hmm. Okay, so that kind of rolls into my next question, actually. So, out of all the components that are supporting AI, whether that's cloud computing, data storage, and processing, semiconductors, just to name a few there, which do you think brings the most value and warrants investors' attention? Can you maybe highlight some specific companies in these particular areas and explain why they stand out to you?
So I think the first two that stand out the most to me is Amazon and Microsoft. And the reason being is they're the two biggest as far as when it comes to cloud or server space. And so when you think about AI, artificial intelligence, you have to store this data somewhere. When people
Hmm.
send out a query and they want a response back, that's just one use of it. If you're in a trucking business and you're mapping routes of all your trucks and inventory, you need that data real time. You need it instantly and you need it to be accurate. But you also need it in a place where the servers aren't going to be going down. They're not going to tell you come back in 20 minutes because too
Right.
many people are online. And
Hmm.
so everybody needs a place to store it. When I say everybody, Facebook even rents space from Amazon and from Microsoft. Other big companies rent space, which is Amazon Web Server. People don't know AWS. And then for Microsoft, is their Azure server. And so everybody's going to need space to house their data. So I think those two companies win no matter what, because everybody needs a place to house their data. So that those are the first
Hmm.
two companies that I would look at. When you start to go down to like the actual equipment, and so there's kind of two
Yep.
components to the equipment. You need servers, but you also need chips that power these servers. That's where you get the AMDs, the Intels, the NVIDIAs. I
Hmm.
think at some point you don't upgrade your server every year. You don't upgrade your server
Yeah.
every 3 years. Sometimes these are 10, 20-year investments. And so I think those who make physical products like chips, at some point they'll hit a peak. It's like, well, everybody already has a new computer or a new server.
Hmm.
And so you'll start to see those taper down, but we haven't hit that space yet. But that's the second place I would look at is computers and chips, and then the materials that go into the computers that people need, the semiconductor stocks, you might see a spike in gold or metal because that's the stuff they use to solder these computer boards together. Those are investments that people don't probably think about as much.
Hmm.
And then you go down to what are the applications that are being created from AI from these new companies that are starting to rise up. I can't, I was thinking of, cloud companies like Zoom, for example.
Hmm.
People don't understand that Zoom is a cloud-based company, but it's also an AI company. If you look, they have now where something can listen to us and give you a summary of your recording
Hmm.
after the video is over. You have AI video editing software now that is allowing you to edit by words. You can edit the words of what someone's speaking, which you can never do before.
Right.
So there are new companies that are being created that might go public that also may be an opportunity to invest. But those are also what becomes the trickiest because they're not necessarily proven. They're breaking into that new
Mm-hmm.
AI industry. But I think if you go top down, everyone needs server space. Second, if you need server space, you also need computers and chips. And then third, those who are making applications for it is how I would look at the order of investing in it.
Great. So those are some great companies. Keep an eye on there. Aside from those, and you kind of just hinted at this, but are there any emerging players that could potentially disrupt the current market dynamic?
There may be, but I don't know about them. And
Yeah.
that's why, and that's what would make them disruptive, right?
Yep.
Nobody sees them coming. It's the little
Mm-hmm.
company that nobody's paying attention to over here. But big picture, there's no company on my mind that
Okay.
is like if they get out of the box, they're going to disrupt. But I also don't
Mm-hmm.
major in looking for unknown explosive stocks. My
Mm-hmm.
thing is, I try to focus on well known established companies and see how they're going to take advantage of the current technology and the current market condition,
Mm-hmm.
because that drops the barrier. That lowers the barrier of amount of research I have to do. Who's this owner? What are their
Mm-hmm.
earnings? How long have they been around? Who's backing them? Do they have like that drastically drops if I just stick with who's the best of the big boys
Yeah.
that are usually in the S&P
Mm-hmm.
500. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's some new disruptors, but I don't know them yet.
Maybe you have one and you're not sharing it with us. Maybe you have to tell me that offline. All right. Well, Jason, with the growing influence of AI across multiple sectors, regulatory scrutiny has also increased, as we've seen. So, how do you kind of foresee that evolving regulations impacting AI companies in 2024? What challenges might they face regarding compliance and ethical considerations, or is that just kind of a gray zone?
I was just talking to my team about this with AI, and I was talking to my good friend about this. And I think the regulators, they're just regular people. Half the
Mm-hmm.
time, they don't even use this technology. You remember when they called Facebook or Mark Zuckerberg in, and they're just like, how does it work? And Mark
Mm-hmm.
kind of explained it and smirked, kind of like, these are the guys creating regulation. They don't even know how to log on the
Right.
platform. They don't know what we do with the data. I feel like it's the same thing with AI. These
Mm-hmm.
guys aren't at home typically using Chat GPT, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but where I think the regulation is going to have to go. So, for example, if Snoop Dogg's voice can be used to create a rap, Eminem's voice can be used to create a rap.
Mm-hmm.
That's all fun and games until someone starts to sell that
Right.
information. And I think the same way that YouTube and some of these players were forced to protect kids in
Mm-hmm.
the way that they were also forced to protect music, as far as like copyright and content infringement, and they can tell if you use more than 30 seconds of a song or a news clip. I think they're going to have to put some things in place to where it's like, you can't allow this on your platform if it's more than 30 seconds
Mm-hmm.
of Snoop Dogg's voice, if it's more than this much of Eminem's voice,
Mm-hmm.
that you're infringing on their artistical rights. I believe you're probably going to see more people patent their voice, probably get a
Okay.
trademark on their voice, something that you weren't even thinking about doing before,
Uh-huh.
because it's so easy to take a clip like this from us talking and they could just
Mm-hmm.
recreate you and I. I wouldn't be surprised if the same way we have a blue check where it's meta verified,
Mm-hmm.
these platforms are forced to roll out something to say, hey, you have to, because you're the biggest source of news, Facebook or Instagram or
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, you have to roll out some type of verification to show, like, this is a copy of this person's voice. This is not their real voice.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if some type of regulation and stuff like that rolls out, especially will be interesting to see how it works during election time when it's like, did
Yeah.
Donald Trump say that? Did Joe Biden really say that? Or is that his deep
Mm-hmm.
fake? And that's where things can get really murky because these deep fakes look so real that it
Yeah.
used to be like, well, seeing is believing. Now you could
Mm-hmm.
see it and be like, I still don't know if I believe it, or I don't know which one was the real one that said it. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think some regulation from that standpoint where they're going to force platforms to verify
Mm-hmm.
what is going on.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. That makes me think of all the stuff going on Facebook right now. The AI generated images with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And you know, people are commenting on those and they think they're real images, and it's like, guys, come on. But
Yeah,
um,
you really don't know what's real anymore because AI is just, I mean, it could erase my background and put me in China doing this
right.
conversation, right? And you're like, wow, he was just in China.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and experience on the future of AI stocks in 2024. But before we close, considering the multitude of factors that we have discussed today, market sentiment, entry timing, potential disruptors, among many other considerations, what overarching advice or guidance would you offer to both the seasoned investors and also those that are just entering the AI investment landscape for the year ahead?
I think it just goes back to what I said earlier is that new technology and fads are going to come and go. Just remember that technology itself is not a company. Whether you've been investing for a while or you're brand new, don't get caught up in the hype of the technology, but get caught up in researching how companies are using it in their already existing business or they're building a new business and breaking into a new industry around it. When I think about electrical cars, it's like electricity itself is not a business. The
Mm-hmm.
technology isn't a business, but the way that Elon Musk is fusing it into a car is a business. So he's taking an existing business and he's making it somewhat, or you could argue, better by using
Mm-hmm.
electricity. And so AI is the same thing. AI itself is not a business. I would encourage people to look at how are people using AI to either break into a new industry or improve an already existing industry and focusing on the business model, not necessarily only the technology. And I think they'll be okay. But if they're just focusing on the technology, I think there's going to be a lot of people that buy into hype
Mm-hmm.
stocks or hype movement or run ups in stocks, and they're going to be disappointed in the long run.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly a great point to remember. Thank you for sharing that with us. Jason, where can people find you?
So people can find me at thebrownreport.com. From there, they can connect with me on YouTube, Instagram. If they're brand new to the market, we have something called like a stock market starter pack and a stock option starter pack for beginners. And they can find that at thebrownreport.com.
Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and link all of Jason's contact info down below. Thank you again for joining me today, Jason, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Lacey, it's been fun. Thank you for having me.